If we want to continue with just Miami's future matchup, they play the winner of Charlotte FC against Houston Dynamo. And I believe they'll be hosting the match Miami for that quarterfinal matchup regardless of who it is. But when it comes to both of these teams, Charlotte coming off of a victory against Cruz Azul, I believe in penalties off of a stalemate game over in the same fucking stadium that Messi just played in. And then Houston Dynamo defeating Pachuca in penalties as well in another game that ended 0-0 and then pushed themselves to penalties. So overall, I think it's two pretty evenly matched squads going up against each other. Just off of a personal pick and bias, I want to see Messi continue his Texas rodeo, if you'd like. And I want to see him take on this Houston Dynamo team because in Miami, I'm sure there's a lot of people from Houston. That Houston fan base will show up. And you just combine that with Messi FC as well. I think Houston, Inter Miami would be an awesome matchup to see. And I'm going to go Houston Dynamo wins this match.
Yeah, I think Houston will win the match too. I'm just a little bummed that whether it's Houston or Charlotte, that their next opponent is Miami. And I'm actually bummed from a Miami perspective because I want to see Miami play against a very good defensive team. Because if I'm being completely honest, where Dallas did very well in the midfield and offensively, I thought they were really stretched in the back line, man.
I did not expect them to be so open,
They were so open. And even when they were dominating possession, when Miami got the ball in transition, I did not trust the Dallas defense, not one bit. They were so stretched, they were so wide open, and one-on-one, they were only looking at Messi. So if Messi found an open pass, man, those wings were wide open. And I just think that's down to Dallas's defense. I don't think they have the talent to be able to cover the type of space that Messi opens up. Here's the thing. Let's say Houston beats Charlotte and they go through. I don't have any confidence in Houston's back line either. I think they have a good midfield, and they'll have they'll have some weapons going forward. Honestly, I don't think they have a player like Velasco, so they might even be more handicapped from that regard. So I kind of would just see the same thing. I would see a good Houston Dynamo team against a good Miami team, but I think Messi would take it there. I think
so.
I think so.
Especially
I think
at home, man.
Yeah, I think the same thing would happen. So low key, I wish they were playing like, for example, like a Nashville, right? Or maybe even like an LAFC or a Philadelphia Union, teams that have so much more chemistry and organization at the back. That's what I want to see Miami play, because we've seen them play against a loose Cruz Azul team. We've seen them play against a really poor Atlanta United team. And now we saw them play against a good Dallas team, but in my opinion, an incomplete team. So I just wish they were playing a more full team that was a lot more talented front to back. But, at the end of the day, you play what you face. So if it is Houston, whether it is Charlotte, I think Miami will go through.
We talked about it, though. Inter ultimately does have one of the easiest paths to like the semifinals in this tournament, facing a ton of MLS teams in the process and still yet to really face a good MLS team at that. So I still have them progressing on past the quarterfinal stage if they face off against, any of these two teams, Charlotte or Houston at the end of the day. But regardless, I'm excited to see who ends up having that shot at maybe taking down Messi's Inter Miami.
Oh, it'll be fun no matter what, though, because these games are just crazy. Even Orlando, they had a good chance for let's say 40 minutes of the game. They made it hella entertaining, bro. So yeah, any game in Miami when Messi's starting, it's gonna be banger after banger.
In this tournament overall, I think it's had some just ridiculous games. One of the poster boys for that phrase, I would say, was the matchup between New England Revolution and Atlas. One of the matches of the tournament, in my opinion, with awesome. How Atlas was able to go up 2-0 and potentially even 3-0 at one point in those first 15, 20 minutes, absolutely dominating. And then what followed was a Carles Hill masterclass, followed by a lot of dirty physical play that ultimately resulted in New England tying the game 2-2, pushing it to penalties, and New England Revolution legend Farrell scoring the game-winning penalty to give them the comeback victory. New England goes through, kicking Atlas out, and they're set to face off against Queretaro, who, in my opinion, has the goal of the tournament with what Sepúlveda was able to do against Pumas. Corner of the box volley, straight into the back net, absolute laser. Querétaro is one of 6 Liga MX teams here in the round of 16, man. And so Querétaro, New England, I'm going New England.
Yeah, Pumas choked that game against Queretaro, but take nothing away from that amazing screamer from Sepúlveda. As for New England, I'm going to be completely honest, man. Atlas should have won that game.
Damn.
They deserved it. New England did very well to get back into the game after going down 2-0. Low-key, I was like, oh, shit, Atlas is going to win this game 4-0. And I was like, oh, this was not what I was expecting. But New England, as you said, through Carles Gil, were able to get back in the game ever so well. And I thought they were going to continue on, get an early equalizer in the second half, but they didn't. And it's because Atlas settled it down, man. Even though New England were building momentum, in that second half, Atlas found composure. They shut down Carles Gil. He saw way less of the ball, and New England ran out of ideas, bro. And that penalty that they conceded, pretty soft,
yeah,
bro.
That was soft.
Super soft. And I was like, shit, like, not like this. Not like this. And so when it went to penalties, I was like, please, like, let there be justice here. Let Atlas win it, because I'd say over the 90, Atlas were the better team. Not by much, though, because, again, New England were able to get back in it. But I thought Atlas did deserve it. So it is what it is. New England get through on penalties with a little bit of luck as well. And they play Querétaro. I don't like this Querétaro team, man. I mean, they're not bad, but they're not good. And I think New England's still a good team, and they had to play a very good Atlas team to get here. So yeah, I think New England will. I think that honestly, the Atlas game probably woke them up a little bit. So I think they're gonna have a really good game against Querétaro, and put them aside.
Yeah, this Atlas team, I was really honestly impressed with them this tournament, because I hadn't realized that they lost Julián Quiñones and Julio César Furch as well, going to fucking Brazil. He's in Brazil now. I think he's with Santos or some shit.
Yeah.
Crazy. And then losing Oziel Herrera to Tigres as well. Their three most important offensive options just out, just gone. How did they replace it? Well, you got Jordi Caicedo coming in and scoring a banger of a second goal in that match where he absolutely fought his ass off to get and got rewarded with it, but then ended up going off in the game with an injury. So they still were able to compete, but I'm still left pretty impressed with what they've been able to do, just trying to replace three massive players that were huge for them these past 2-3 years.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I was not a fan of Jordi Caicedo before he came to Atlas. I didn't think he really had the IQ to lead a line by himself. And to couple that, I just didn't think he had the talent overall, man. But he put on a really good performance. Classic number 9, constantly making runs, constantly being a nuisance against the two center backs of New England and getting in the box. And then when he would get the ball in space, he used all of his 99 pace, bro, to get past Andrew Farrell on that one goal, bro. Like, holy shit. Caicedo put in a really good performance. So if Benjamin Mora can get those performances on a weekly basis from Caicedo, man, that's good business for Atlas, considering they just lost Quiñones and Furch.
I'm not saying I'm not going that far. I'm not saying he will.
I'm not either.
Yeah. I don't think he will, but he will show great moments. He's only 25 years old, I think, right now, so he still has that potential. But I was impressed with what he's able to do at his absolute peak. That's the biggest question, is consistency.
Yeah.
Can he do it weekly in Liga MX? We know that Furch and Quiñones were absolutely capable of that. We'll see, man. We'll see with him.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I don't think he'll get anywhere near the skill level of Furch or Quiñones. Yeah. I mean, those guys are studs, bro. Yeah, we're talking about some of the best forwards in Liga MX. I don't think Caicedo will ever be that. I'm just saying that, like, I didn't even know he could do this in a 90-minute match. I didn't even think he was that skilled, but I thought he put in a really good performance. But yeah, the consistency is going to be tough. Yeah. But I mean, hey.
And so New England, assuming they win this matchup against Querétaro, will face off against the winner of Philadelphia and New York Red Bulls. I want to know, bro, what did you think about that Philly versus DC United match, in which DC United actually looked like, at times, the better team, or at least having better opportunities to score, but eventually just was not able to and pushed it to penalties to then see themselves lose against Philadelphia?
You know what's interesting is that when it comes to these MLS versus MLS matchups, I'm actually more nervous for the teams that I pick going forward if they're playing against an MLS team. Because this is just like a league game, and there's a lot of inconsistency when it comes to these MLS teams.
Yeah.
And DC United, they're in the same conference. They've played them before. They play them a lot. And I think they just knew Philadelphia. I think they had a really good game plan, and they executed it really, really well. Philadelphia, I think, honestly, weren't that up for it, at least the way that I thought they would, and it ended up being just a stalemate at the end of the day, 0-0. Philly go through on penalties, but yeah, I think that's just what it was. DC knew their opponent because they're just very, very familiar with them. Going forward for Philadelphia, I'm not going to be too concerned because they're still an incredibly good team, and in the team that they'll face in New York, I think it's going to be the same thing. I think Red Bulls are going to show up, bro. And I think they're going to make it really tough. I still have Philadelphia going through, but I won't be surprised if Red Bulls pull off a victory here, bro. Just because they know each other. And the Red Bulls, honestly, are a pretty good team.
Yeah, I think that's my take too. I think we're so far aligned with our predictions. I have Philly winning this game. I'm just I'm scared now, man, because of what I saw DC United. Benteke had a one-on-one at one point that if he just buries it, they win that match and Philly's out, man. Yeah. And we have Philly as an actual contender in this tournament. And yes, that league matchup sort of relationship or dynamic does play a huge factor. I mean, I have a very similar take for the Tigres Monterrey matchup. I think it's a lot more even because once you face a team that's in your league, it becomes a lot more complicated. So ultimately, I still have Philly winning this, but I agree. New York could probably make this really, really tough or see themselves winning 1-0 like how they did against New York City FC.
Exactly.
Okay, so now for one of my favorite matchups here in the round of 16, we have Club America set to face off against Nashville. Mm-hmm. Nashville, who knocked out Soltero's pick for the tournament, Cincinnati in penalties. Your defense.
Super disappointed with Cincinnati. A really poor performance. Nashville completely deserved to go through. They were by far the better team in that match. And honestly, I'm really surprised at how uninterested Cincinnati looked. They didn't look like they really wanted to be there, honestly. There wasn't as much pace with their offensive line that they had in the group stage. And when they were looking for that goal, sure, they picked it up a little bit, but not much. And honestly, complete credit to Nashville's back line led by Walker Zimmerman because they made Luciano Acosta and Bupenza's night hell. Yeah. Hell. Every time they got on the ball, there was at least a shoulder on them. And I think that just added to the fact that Cincinnati were like, oh, fuck this. I wasn't expecting this type of game, and I'm just not going to perform. And that's why I'm really disappointed because I thought Cincinnati would be able to adapt to a high-pressure situation like this. Nashville came in with a better mental plan, get a body on him, be very physical against this fluid Cincinnati team, and it worked. So I'm very disappointed with Cincinnati because I think if they had turned it on like the way they did against their Mexican opponents in the group stage, they would have won this game, but they didn't. So they're rightfully losers, in my opinion. What's crazy, though, is that this one still went to penalties.
Yeah. Well, what did you think about that penalty call, though?
Not a penalty.
Yeah, man.
It's not a penalty. Nashville should have won this one completely right out. So when it went to penalties, I was like, oh, dude, fuck this.
Yeah, man.
I don't want Cincinnati going through like this. So I'm glad they lost because they did not deserve it. Dude, Brandon Vasquez sold that. Bro.
And then he had a crazy miss earlier where it was a beautiful play between, I think, Luciano and Bupenza, and then the ball comes in and he's right there and he just fucking scuffs it, man.
Yeah, and Bupenza had one too. Not as clear. It was still 12 yards out and he just kind of skied it. So Cincinnati had the chances, but just didn't look like they wanted it, man. So I'm pissed it went to penalties. I'm glad Nashville won.
Nashville wins that match and they face off against Club America, who went to Chicago Fire Stadium and, in my opinion, outplayed them ultimately, man. Julian Quiñones getting on the score sheet at one point and a call that I believe was onside but was called off. The game progresses and Club America was still able to ultimately force Chicago Fire into a massive mistake, getting an own goal to get the lead. And once they got that, they didn't look back. Club America got the job done, and they now are set to face off against the most yellow team in the MLS. Ooh. A battle of yellow teams right here, man. It's a trend so far.
Yeah. You know what's crazy about that Chicago game is I was expecting America to really boss this game, and I would say they did dominate it, but I don't think they killed Chicago. If anything, Chicago played a lot better than I thought they were going to. They closed down the spaces when they needed to. There was a lot of last-ditch defending, but it worked. And what's even crazier is before that goal where America go up 1-0, Przbilko had a wide open goal.
That was bad, bro.
A wide open goal, and he just puts it to the side. And in that moment, Chicago go up 1-0. I think America could have gotten one more. It would have gone to penalties. I really do think the game was headed towards penalties if Chicago had scored that goal, which they should have. So America, even though I think they were by and large the better team, I would say scraped by result-wise. And which is why I have Nashville beating them in the next round. If Nashville played the way that they played against Cincinnati, if Zimmerman shows up, guides his defensive line, America's not going to find a lot of joy going forward. And then when you have a guy like Hani Mukhtar for Nashville, he can pull those strings. And I think Nashville can get at least 1, maybe 2 goals against the America side. And I think they can squeeze a result, but it's going to be tough. There's going to be this is one of my favorite matchups. I think you actually said that. I completely agree. I'm going to be glued to the TV screen for this match because I think either team can win it. These are 2 really, really good teams. I'm going Nashville.
Fair. I'm going America on this one. They were my pre-tournament pick to win the League's Cup. I just interpret that match differently versus Chicago. I interpret it differently. That Julian Quiñones goal was a goal, bro. It was onside and it was just ruled off completely. The idea of them potentially having been down 1-0 to Chicago Fire isn't fair to my eyes because I don't see them putting themselves in that position because I saw them as 1-0 up early in the game. Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. I can't really argue that. I'm just saying a team like Chicago do not have anything going forward, right? I mean, yes, they have Shaqiri, right? Yeah. But chemistry-wise and just talent-wise, there's not a lot there. And they were almost able to get a goal, and I thought America... They need to do way more against a team like Chicago. And that's why I'm not as impressed. But I understand. You're right. If they score early, America see this game through 100%. So, it's a little unfair what I'm saying. I'll agree with you there.
I'm curious, though. Andy Martinez injured. He's out. Yeah. He's out. He's in a fucking boot is what I saw. I'm interested to see how that impacts America's offense because now the responsibility is fully on Quiñones. And does he get help from Zendejas or Leo Suarez? We'll see. But for now, the responsibility that Julian Quiñones will now have will be much bigger versus what would have been a very clinical duo of Martin and Quiñones side by side. I'm interested to see if Nashville is able to just nullify Quiñones now that he's the main focal point of their offense. And I want to see how America reacts to it. Do they get more offensive options from their fullbacks, such as Kevin Alvarez, for example? Does he get more involved offensively? Where do they find the goals in a match against Nashville that's going to be insanely tight, insanely physical? Or will it just be fucking floodgates wide open like that Toluca Nashville matchup, man?
Yeah, that's actually such a great point because I don't think Quiñones is fully meshed into this America side yet. Yeah. And it's a point that I brought up right at the beginning of the tournament in the sense that, you know, these Liga MX teams are just starting their season, whereas the MLS teams are 3/4 of the way through theirs. And I think that actually will play a part here because if this was November America, I think Quiñones would be completely involved with his team. He would know the runs to make. He would know how to combine with Zendejas and Suarez on either side of him. But right now, I actually think it's a little disjointed. There are times, especially in the Chicago game, where Quiñones would make these solo runs, but you know, the America wingers are much more enticed to play combination with their midfield rather than just send in a through ball or send in a long ball to Quiñones. But it kind of makes sense because that's what Quiñones did for Atlas for like 3 years, man. So I think there's just a little bit of growing pains going on with Quiñones and America. It's a good thing, though. The more he can adapt, the better he's going to get and the better he's going to make America. I just think right now it's a little unfortunate because we're not seeing a fully fleshed out America side. Because if that was the case, especially with Martin healthy too, I think it'd make it a lot harder for Nashville. But I think this situation actually favors Nashville, in my opinion. Yeah,
I think overall this tournament has shown that it's tough to find a team in this tournament that has actually been able to go full throttle and actually deliver every single game. I mean, we even just saw Inter Miami on the fucking ropes despite how well they started the tournament, nearly on the verge of getting eliminated. There is one team, though, that I think has been incredible this entire tournament so far, scoring 12 goals, bro. Yeah. 12 goals in 3 matches, 4 in every single game. It's Toluca, baby.
Good Lord, bro.
Toluca has come out for fucking blood, man. Like they're on a goddamn revenge tour here in the United States, nabbing 4 goals against Sporting Kansas City. And this one I felt good about. because I remember in our round of 32 predictions, I said, I'm going Toluca because I feel that if there's actually a very well motivated and disciplined Liga MX side to go up against a Sporting Kansas City team, they can be exposed. And Toluca did that and more. Ending this game by the 60th minute, just absolutely putting on a display and getting 4 goals in a match away from home. I was truly very, very impressed with Toluca. And I think that right now it's between them and Monterrey as the best Liga MX representatives so far in this tournament versus what I thought would have been Tigres and America. It's actually been this Toluca squad that's been able to really put on a show and go all out in this tournament and show that they're taking it serious and that they're here to compete for a title, man.
Yeah, Toluca looked so good against Sporting Kansas City. Kansas City, similar to Cincinnati in a way, just looked terrible.
Yeah.
They didn't look up for it. They looked actually kind of tired, if anything. And it sucked because, you know, when that Kansas City stadium is packed and it's rocking, it's such a force. It's a 12th man, 100%, but it wasn't there. It just wasn't there. Toluca came in and invaded the place, not even just with their fans, but just the players. Like, they completely dominated this match. An incredibly impressive performance, and I agree. I think Toluca, for me, is the only Liga MX side that is consistently playing at a very high level. I'm not even going to put Monterrey in that conversation. For me, it's just Toluca. But my God, dude, what a message that they sent to pretty much the rest of the teams remaining in this tournament. Just killing Kansas City, man, killing them. Yeah. It just wasn't even a contest. One player that new signing for Toluca that has really stood out, man. Yeah. The Brazilian striker Pedro Raul. He looks good, man.
Yeah, man.
He looks really good. A really big guy. Really tall, number 9. Classic type of number 9 striker. But he's really, like, crafty. He makes really intelligent runs. He's a little slow on the ball, but if anything, he's figured out how to actually use it to his advantage. He's very good at settling the ball in tight spaces. And then what he does best, put the ball in the back of the net, man. So what an incredible signing for Toluca to get a Brazilian striker like that, because I think he's really changed this team. And I think Toluca going forward are going to be the team to watch out for. And I would even say, even out of the MLS teams, Toluca are probably the best right now.
Yeah,
I could see them going all the way.
Yeah, and they're set to face off against Minnesota United, who just came off of also a really entertaining match against the Columbus Crew that finished 3-3, but in my opinion saw Minnesota United just kind of scrape by at the end, just come back and get back into the match and just find themselves in a penalty shootout through the sheer will of guys like Emmanuel Reynoso putting on a crazy display, just willing his team back into this match and making it 3-3 at one point, goes to penalties. Minnesota comes out of this game as the away team as winners. And now they're set to face off against Toluca in this round of 16 matchup, but they don't have enough to compete with Toluca, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They just don't. And I think ultimately Toluca will see themselves bagging another 4 fucking goals in this match. And that'll be the storyline, man. That'll be the thing to watch. Can they reach 4 goals again? Or will they disappoint and only get 2?
Yeah. I like this Minnesota team. I think they can compete with the very best. Unfortunately, I think Toluca's very, very good right now. You already called it. The momentum that they have, I think, is going to take a lot more than what Minnesota have to actually stop. But I'll say this, if Minnesota were playing Tigres or Monterrey, I actually would think that they would have a very good chance at winning. But for me, Toluca is just a lot better than Tigres and Monterrey right now. And it's going to take a very special team to stop this Toluca side. I think Minnesota's going to fight, but I don't think they can win.
Fair. Tigres Monterrey, El Clásico Regio, here in the League's Cup, baby. We got a fucking Clásico, man.
Nah, dude.
What are you talking about?
Nah, both Monterrey and Tigres got lucky, dude.
Monterrey, no. Tigres, yes.
No, they both got lucky, man. Especially in the sense that the teams that they face are like average MLS sides, both of them. Both Portland and Vancouver. Very average sides, and they both barely got through. Portland, I don't rate this team right now. I don't think they're that good, and I think their standings in the Western Conference would agree with me. There's just nothing. There's not a lot going forward for Portland. They're well organized. They have a good coach. I just think they're missing a lot of talent that they at one point in their club history did have with players like Sebastian Blanco and Diego Valeri. You're talking about some of the best midfielders who ever played in the MLS. Unfortunately, all of that's gone now. There's just age, right? But the new players that they have in their place are just nowhere near that level. So when I look at this Portland team, man, it's just a shadow of what they once were. And for them to just lose by like 1 goal against Monterrey, and what a banger it was by Maxi, by the way. An absolutely beautiful goal. But Monterrey didn't craft that much more. They did dominate possession, and they did stretch Portland. So good on them for that. But considering how poor Portland are, I needed to see more from Monterrey. I really did, just personally. And so going forward, I think they'll have a good chance against Tigres because Tigres, had to get a little lucky against Vancouver, man. They had to get very lucky. A crazy goal from Gignac. Doing it once again. Damn. Even at his age now, I was like, holy shit, man. Like, man. Watch out. But again, I think Tigres... I want to make this clear. Monterrey deserved to beat Portland. They were the better team. Tigres deserved to go through against Vancouver. I thought they were slightly the better team, but they were the better team. Now they face off against each other, but I'm just saying, man, if they had to play like against LAFC, if they had to play Cincinnati, if they had to play Columbus,
they'll step up for those games, man.
I don't know, dude. I don't know, man.
I'm not. Go ahead. Finish your point.
I think for example, I think Tigres did step up against Vancouver. They had to because
they underestimated them a ton, bro.
Right. So they stepped up halfway through the game is what I'm saying. Yeah, they stepped up when they had to. And yeah, it took a bicycle kick to get them even to have a chance. But that's what they do, man. They've been doing it since the fucking Liga, man. Yeah. They just play exactly to the level of the opponent and enough to scrape by and win, bro. You're wearing the jersey of the team they did that exact same shit to, man. My problem with that is that Vancouver don't have any offensive weapons, bro.
They don't have
any.
They scored a nice goal, though.
Pedro Vite with a banger. Oh my insane, God, man. Dude.
Insane technique.
The way, just like a one-touch bouncing set on them, just side
That's
foot.
in Vancouver, bro. They just have that little, like a guy like that.
Just a guy like that, but that's all they have, man, offensively. And so what I'm saying is they cannot do that against a team that has an entire offensive line of Pedro Vites, essentially is what I'm saying. They can't get away with that, and I don't think they will. Now, the thing is, they're playing against a team that they know very well. So just like how Philadelphia had a very tight game against DC, I have the exact same prediction here with Tigres having a very hotly contested matchup against Monterrey.
I think I've always seen knockout matchups in a different way than I think you do, because for me, the priority during a knockout match is to just come out as a winner, whereas the priority when you're in a group setting, in the build-up to the knockout matches, like in the group stage, that's the time where you show your dominance. That's the time where you show, are you capable of putting up 2-3 goals against a solid team? But in the knockout stages, man, I've never really been the type of person that's like, has a crazy expectation for what a team should be able to deliver, regardless of the quality of the opponent, because the first thing that matters in a knockout matchup is winning the goddamn match. And the fact that Tigres and Monterrey did that exactly, Monterrey doing it 1-0, getting the shutout, yes, not dominating the way that even I expected them to, but still getting the result that was needed at the very end of the day doesn't really concern me, because I know that once they are set to face off against like an LAFC or a Nashville or Toluca, whoever it might be, I predict they'll be able to make that a tight matchup and be able to compete in it and have a chance at winning it. Because from what we've learned from this tournament is there's very little teams that have actually been able to be incredibly consistent so far. Yeah. So to have that expectation just seems a little harsh to me, especially for this Tigres and Monterrey side that we know, that we've seen when it comes to winning these matchups, they're very, very good at it. They just don't do it in the most pretty or flashiest ways.
I think, first off, I completely agree with what you're saying. I'm not going to disagree with it, but I'm going to pose this to you. I think to become a really good club, you have to treat every game like it's a final, right? And in the sense that you need to play your best football at all times, no matter what.
Okay.
No matter who you're playing.
That should be the goal. That should be the goal, yeah.
But I mean this on like a very broad scope. So if you really want to progress your league, if you want to progress who you are as a player, if you want to progress your team as a coach, you have to play a very specific style that you set out to do, and you have to do it every single time. Now, obviously, the crazy thing about football is that your opponent can also adapt to that, right? They can make it very difficult for you. And that's what I'm saying, is that when I see Monterrey play, when I see Tigres play right now, I don't see that much identity. I see a lot of improvisation. right? Which is what you're saying is what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And while I do agree with you in the sense that, yes, that's what you can prioritize in tournaments like this, I'm going long run, man. I'm going, who's the team that I can be like, oh, they're set up to have a dynasty for the next 5 years, right? That's what I'm looking for. I think having consistently high performances on a week-to-week basis, man, I think I value that more than winning. A team with an identity will go way further than a team without one. All day long. It doesn't matter how much class you have in your team. It doesn't matter how much talent you have. If you can squeeze out these crazy bicycle get results and win at 1-0, if you're not dominating the way that you're like supposed to as a team, the way that your coach wants to, it doesn't mean much to me. Like, it's not, I wouldn't want that as a fan. Like, if I'm a Tigres fan and we won that way, I'd be like, fuck, dude, not looking good. And sure, we're going through, yay, but I'd be incredibly nervous for the next game. I wouldn't be feeling good. And so for me, it's about the style that is employed club to club. And if there's a specific identity that's there, that's physical, that you can see it, it's tangible, I'd rather that than just try and improvise.
I think the thing is, though, I think Tigres' identity is improvisation. I think that's how they were able to do it in every single matchup in La Liga, was that. And I think that was the confusion that we had, and that we continued to not rate them during the playoffs because the expectation of identity that we had of them was not fulfilled. But ultimately, I think it's just translated in a different way. I think it's expressed differently for this Tigres team. I think their identity is this improvisational hoorah, if you want to call it, where they essentially just go all out. Sometimes they underestimate their opponent. Sometimes they absolutely dominate them. But I think the fact that Tigres actually has a chance at winning the Leagues Cup and winning Liga MX and Leagues Cup with what you believe to not be an identity kind of counters what you're saying, because they could end up dominating North America without an identity. And that's still a team that wins trophies.
Yeah, okay. I just don't see them in any permutation winning this tournament, though. So if that happens, then yeah, I'll completely concede. I'll write an apology letter, whatever grievance that I've said in the past. I don't see Tigres winning this tournament. I really don't. Whereas in the Liga, yes, I didn't have them necessarily beating their opponent, but it didn't surprise me when they made it to the final, for example, right? I will be genuinely surprised if Tigres go to the final here. Like,
really?
Yes.
Because their path is just Monterrey, and then it's Real Salt Lake or LAFC. You think that LAFC matchup is the biggest one?
Oh, that's the path?
Yeah.
Oh, well, then Tigres can get to the final.
And then they'll be in the final at that point, man.
Well, then that's just really frustrating because then at that point they would have had a really easy path, in my opinion.
Yeah, but so they into Miami. Like, that's just knockout tournaments, though.
Yeah.
And that's, at the end of the day, for them to make it to that final, I think just goes to what I'm saying is they just find ways to do it. Either they got people behind the scenes pulling the strings so they get easy knockout matchups. I don't know what it is.
Right.
But this Tigres team, or even Monterrey, I would say, have found a way to make it this deep into the tournament. And I think that maybe there's an emphasis on the need for identity when in knockout tournaments. I don't know if that can be applied, especially with how crazy Leagues Cup is specifically. Yeah. Maybe that's where I'm going. It's just Leagues Cup specific. I don't know if the identity thing works.
Actually, I see what you're saying. Even just beyond Leagues Cup, just knockout stage. Just knockout stage. You can get by with just winning. Yeah. Improvising.
Yeah.
You don't need an identity if your identity is just being good.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
I do get it, because if you have a player like Gignac, you know you can rely on him. Like, it's not like maybe Gignac scores. It's like if Gignac has a chance, he's going to score.
Yeah.
And that's a crazy reliability that you can have on a single player. Tigres have that. So I definitely see what you're saying when it comes to what is required for a knockout stage expectation. There's something missing there, though, that
because Cincinnati has the identity that you were looking for, but they were missing something that was not able to come through for them when it mattered most.
Exactly. That's what I'm getting at, is that this is going beyond what I thought we were getting into in like a great way. Like, this is like soccer philosophy, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think we see that a little different.
We do. Hold on.
And I think it comes out. It works in my favor during knockout settings, but it works against me in league settings. Like,
so then ultimately, here's my conclusion. Then, and it's obviously nothing that can be controlled. Then I hate that. Not just Tigres, let's just say Miami too. That you can have such easy pathways to a final, because if Tigres had to play Cincinnati as their round of 32. I think that'd be a completely different matchup. Or let's say a New England or a Philadelphia, right? Or an LAFC even, right? And then let's say they had to play a team of that same caliber as a round of 16, as a quarterfinal, as a semifinal. I don't think Tigres get to a final that way. I really don't. Using the exact same methodology that you're talking about, in the sense that you don't have to have an identity. You can just improvise a knockout stage. So then there's really nothing I can say then, because... You're right. But if you just play what's in front of you in knockout, and you win, you beat them.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. I wonder what Tigres team would have showed up if they had Cincinnati or Nashville in the first round. Would they have been caught off guard like how Vancouver did in that first half, or would they have shown up and realized the opponent they had in front of them
and been way more
prepared? I wonder, man.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's just a bunch of hypotheticals, but
exactly.
Funny enough, I had Monterrey winning this matchup.
Wait, what? No, I mean, yeah.
Because I feel better about this Monterrey team right now versus Tigres, because I think Monterrey has been really impressive. I thought the way they ultimately dominated or controlled that match against Portland just eases me a little bit more. And so ultimately, I have Monterrey going through in this one. I just feel like it's one of those classic matchups where, yes, the better team going in is Tigres, but for some reason, I got a little bit of a feeling for this one, Monterrey.
Yeah. Fuck, man, you convinced me to go for Tigres. I'm not kidding. Like, I think I'm gonna go Tigres.
Okay.
And it's simply because, like, especially in recent history, when Tigres and Monterrey play in a knockout setting, Tigres get them.
Tigres do get them.
Tigres get them, bro. So I'm gonna go Tigres.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna do it. But yeah, Monterrey looked good against Portland. I just wish they scored more goals.
Yeah. Lastly, LAFC against Real Salt Lake. Real Salt Lake beating León 3-1 after León went up 1-0 early in the game, a game that had to be rescheduled due to fucking storms, but ultimately saw Real Salt Lake win. And LAFC playing their second game in this tournament now after having a bye to the round of 32, winning 7-1 against FC Juarez, an absolute dismantling of them. Dude. This will be a fun one. Another MLS matchup here in the round of 16. Who do you have going out in this one?
Yeah, I'm going to go LAFC on this one. If Vela puts in the same performance that he did against Juarez, even if he doesn't score, the threat that he poses on the pitch, I think is going to be just a little bit too much for Real Salt Lake. LAFC went off on Juarez, man. Completely off on them. I don't expect Real Salt Lake to have anywhere near the same poor performance as Juarez. I think they'll make it very tight, but LAFC at home, it's a Western Conference matchup. I think they're just going to get the dub over Real Salt Lake. Although Real Salt Lake put on a crazy second half performance against León where they just kept building, and the momentum that they were able to gather, León just choked from it. They could not handle it, and Real Salt Lake did so well, man. But I just think LAFC is going to be a lot more prepared. They know what's coming, and they're at home. So I think LAFC will go through.
Yeah, I actually see the points that you're saying of LAFC. I think they're easily the favorite going into this matchup. But Real Salt Lake, man, I have a nudge here that we're going to see a crazy upset in one of these matchups. And for some reason, I think Real Salt Lake will be the team to upset LAFC, given that they beat the squad that beat them in the CONCACAF Champions League, right? 3-1. And overall, what I really liked from Salt Lake was their team effort. What they did against León was just full on, a full 11, being on the same page behind the coach's philosophy and executing it completely. Despite going down 1-0 to bounce back and win it 3-1, I always find comebacks like that to be so impressive. And I just think they might have a chance here to catch LAFC off guard, especially because they're feeling themselves. After that 7-1 easy victory, they haven't truly been tested. And since this is an in-league MLS matchup, I think I see something like, I see a vision of Real Salt Lake pushing this really tight until the very end, going to penalties and getting out alive. I see Real Salt Lake winning this matchup and kicking LAFC out. It's the round of 16, baby, and this tournament continues producing some incredible matchups. Who will be the king of CONCACAF and MLS? I'll end this segment with this. Since Cincinnati got kicked out, who now is your pick to win the tournament from this point forward?
So this gets really interesting. I had Cincinnati going through because I thought they had the best chemistry and the most complete team in the MLS from defense to offense. I already highlighted how highly I rated their offensive line, but they just didn't show up in the last round, so now they're out. Philadelphia, New England, I think still have a very good chance of going through all the way to the final and even vying for it and winning it. They're very good teams. I think they're just as complete as Nashville, although maybe with just a little bit less firepower, but I think they make it up with the chemistry that they have on the pitch. So Philadelphia, New England, I think are very good. What Messi can do with Miami, I don't even know what that ceiling is, bro. And considering that they might have a somewhat easy path to the final, other than that semifinal game, which might be against Philadelphia or New England, I think that Messi could go to the final, bro. Yep. And at that point, once Messi is in a final, is he going to lose? That's what's crazy. And then when I look at Liga MX sides, I think Toluca look incredible right now, and I think they can go all the way to the final as well. America are winners. They can go too. Fuck, this is a tough question. This is a really tough question as far as who I really genuinely think who's going to win it.
Yeah, betting money on this right now would be insane.
It'd be insane,
It'd be
man.
so hard to get.
Yeah. The team that's playing the best football right now is Toluca, in my opinion. I think they have the makings of winning this title, but... Fuck. I can't pick
pass?
one.
You want to pass?
I can't pick one, man. No, hold on. Let me.
You can not pick one. That's allowed. It's your pod, bro. The octopus don't got to pick, man.
So kind of what you were saying earlier and how the momentum has really picked up for Toluca. I think I'm going to ride that momentum wave. I think Toluca, best team right now, playing in the League's Cup. They can go all the way to the final, but holy shit, they have a tough path, bro.
Yeah.
They have a tough path. They win this next game, then they play the winner of Nashville America, and that's going to be insane because at that point, any of those teams could win it, go to the final themselves, and it could be Nashville. I think Nashville have the talent, they have the team to go all the way to the final in what would be a crazy bracket to do so. But I think Toluca are playing the best football right now, so if I had to put money on it, I'll go Toluca, but still, what a gamble.
Yeah, I want to stay with America here, but what I saw from Inter Miami was impressive.
Right.
LAFC still has a lot to say about this. Tigres, I just went a whole philosophical spiel about why they could win this tournament, but you know, I'll meet you there. I'll meet you in Toluca. I'll meet you at the Nemesio Diaz. I would love to be there in that atmosphere with you, supporting that red, Los Diablos Rojos. To see them win this trophy would be incredible. And just, bro, the stat of 12 goals in 3 games is ludicrous to me, man.
Yeah.
That just is a team that's fully informed offensively with newcomers, bro. Losing a guy like Leo Fernandez, who was so key to their offense, and still being able to produce at this rate is immense. I want to go Toluca, man. And so if you're a Toluca fan watching the show, man, like I'm with you the rest of this way, because what an impressive showing so far, and what an awesome thing it would be to see them lift up the first League's Cup trophy.